Welcome to yet another episode of Shortcast over Coffee. Today I have Raghav with me. Raghav is the co-founder of Posha. You guys must be intrigued what Posha does, so I'll let Raghav maybe introduce himself and give us a bit about what Posha does.
Hi Bala, thanks for having me on Shortcast over Coffee. My name is Raghav and I'm co-founder at Posha. At Posha, we're helping busy people eat freshly cooked meals every single day without having to spend tons of time in the kitchen. We do that by building cooking robots for home, one of which we'll see today in some time. We just started shipping about a month back. Currently have a long wait list of thousands of customers who are waiting for Posha devices to be shipped to them. We're only exclusively shipping in the US right now and are excited for what's ahead of us as we're on the next stage of our journey.
Oh, that's great. So we have to dive a lot deep into the product and what motivated you to start this company. But before that, let's maybe do a quick demo with the product.
Let's do a quick demo. The demo will take 30 to 45 minutes. So it'll be nice if we start the demo, continue our chat, and then treat ourselves to delicious food cooked by me.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Raghav, so what do we have here?
So this is the Posha device. You will see the word Nymble written here. That's because we were formerly known as Nymble. If you Google us and if you find a company called Nymble, it's the same company. We just rebranded from Nymble to Posha. And I can tell you the story about that in some time perhaps. But for now, this is the Posha robot. As I mentioned, it's a device that helps you feed your family fresh meals every single day without getting stuck in the kitchen. On the hardware side, we have actually what does it do? It cooks a meal for you. You operate it from this screen. This is your gateway into the world of Posha. On the hardware side, we have an induction cooktop. And the induction cooktop has a detachable pan. The pan has a detachable stirrer. In the back here, we have containers for oil and water. We can easily open this, insert water via here, insert oil via here. Different containers for different ingredients. Right, I put milk here. Space for spices, and these are refillable spice pods that you can actually, let me rotate this, take one of them out, and you can refill them with your own spices if you want. We also sell spices. Many people choose to purchase spices from us, but you can totally refill your own as well. This, as I mentioned, is the screen. This is what helps you access Posha. On the top, you have recipes that have been pushed as content updates. New recipes are shipped out as content updates pretty much every single week, and we have more than 500 recipes on the Posha device. We have this collection section, which has multiple recipes grouped together by time of day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, by type of meal, sides, roasts, fillings, by dietary preferences, vegetarian, vegan, keto. We also have a section called chai, a section called desserts, and then there's a section called Nymble for kids for people who have fussy eaters. These recipes are simple as well as delicious. Recipes like mac and cheese go right here. Multiple cuisines. We have African, Asian, Chinese, Italian, Indian, you name it, we have it. And on the bottom here, we have choose by ingredient for days when you don't know what to do with tons of broccoli lying around in your refrigerator. Today, what we'll be doing is we'll be searching for spaghetti. So I'll search for spaghetti, and we have many different spaghetti recipes. The specific one we're cooking today is a spaghetti Alfredo with mushrooms. When I select that recipe, it asks me exactly how many people I want to cook for. Today we'll just cook for you. That also reduces the cooking time automatically. We can customize the recipe to our liking. We can season it more, put less oil in it, ensure spices are at optimal levels, so on and so forth. We can tell it how al dente we want our pasta to be, and then once we've done that, it what's happening? Once we do that, it tells me exactly what all ingredients to put. So it says put spaghetti in container A. So I've put spaghetti in container A. It says put garlic, butter and mushrooms in container B, and so I've put those in container B. If you have an 8-year-old and this 8-year-old does not know what sliced mushrooms means, you just tap here and it shows you exactly how the mushrooms need to be sliced. It also tells you the quantities. So here it says put 1.5 ounces of mushrooms. Container C it says put black olives and parsley. Container D it says milk and dairy cream. If you notice, you'll see all of these ingredients have very little prep required. Spaghetti, I actually bought 1 pot spaghetti from Target, so I didn't even have to break the spaghetti in half. It comes this way in Target if you buy 1 pot spaghetti.
Just on that, right? I see that you mention the container in which a specific thing is put is important.
Correct.
What if someone accidentally swaps it? I know the instructions are very clear, but why is it container?
So if somebody accidentally swaps it, we currently cannot guarantee good results. The recipe will actually go bad. So we encourage you to stick to the right containers. We will have capabilities soon where, and it won't be on this device, but probably in a future device where there's a camera on this which will be able to see what ingredients you've put in the containers. Right now, the field of view of the camera is limited to the pan.
Yeah. But I think if you add cameras, that will make the product a lot more expensive. So I guess this is a small inconvenience to pay.
Correct.
for getting good results, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And so far, I think our customers have made more than 10,000 recipes on it, and this hasn't happened even once till date. So I think it's
that's a good validation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So coming back here, so spaghetti requires no prep. I bought minced garlic from the market. I bought sliced mushrooms from the store. I bought chopped olives from the store, chopped parsley from the store. Milk and cream again have no prep required. So basically this recipe is a zero prep recipe. The only thing I had to prep was I had to take that slice of butter out of the stick.
Yeah, this is actually fascinating because a lot of viewers I'm sure might have this question that hey, you have how many containers do you have? 5 containers, right? Mm-hmm. What if my recipe has 12 ingredients? Right. But I see that there are lots of ingredients that can go in a single container. Mm-hmm. It's actually quite fascinating how the recipe has already decided that in container B, butter, garlic and mushroom can go. Do you want to give me a bit about like how it decides and like how?
So there are 4 containers for ingredients, and actually let me start a demo and then I'll take you through this, but question noted.
Yeah.
Because as I said, the demo will take some time.
Yeah.
So I put milk and dairy cream here. We're all prepped up. So I'll now go next, and it asks me to put all these ingredients or all these spices in the spice tray. So I've already put all those spices in the spice tray. Salt in position 1, black pepper in position 2, garlic in position 3, herbs in position 4, and flour in position 6. This again, people don't tend to make mistakes. I'll proceed to checklist. It says make sure there's enough oil, there's enough water, which there is enough of. Verify the pan, stirrer, spatula are positioned correctly, and ensure that the stirrer is properly connected, which it is not. So I'll connect it, and if you see this, it's a magnetic connector, so it literally just clicks in place. I can then schedule cooking for later, or I can start cooking right away. Because we're hungry now, I will start cooking right away. And at this point of time, Posha will run a bunch of safety checks to make sure it's connected to Wi-Fi. The camera here is not foggy. The electricity is working just fine. It's able to draw the current it needs to draw. And once it's done all of that, it will just start cooking.
It also has safety features like exhaust fan. So it's like a self-contained kitchen in itself.
Correct. Right? It's a self-contained device. To answer your question on on containers, there are actually 4 containers in the back here, and ingredients that go into the dish together are actually bunched together in the same container. So if onions and garlic are supposed to go in together, they'll be required to be put in the same container.
Okay.
And we have not seen many recipes where you require more than 4 such stages. And this, by the way, is in addition to 2 stages for oil and water, stages for spices. And if there are more stages required, our in-house team of culinary chefs makes sure that the recipe is modified so that it can be cooked in 4 steps.
I like the way it shakes and dunks the garlic.
Correct.
Is that on purpose? It does it shake every time?
It does it just like humans do. So whenever we're transferring, we shake it like this. So that's what it's trying to do.
Let's come back to the screen. So screen basically tells you what is going on, right?
Correct. It tells you what's going on, and you don't even have to be around. If you look at my phone here, I'm already logged into the Posha app, and on the bottom you can see spaghetti alfredo with mushrooms in progress. I can click on that, and it'll show me what step it is on, as well as the field of view of the camera. So I could very well be on my desk or watching TV, and I can totally see what's going on with my device.
Okay.
I have been mentioning the word camera again and again, and you can see that here as well.
So this is not live feed. Does it take images at certain instances and
it's a live feed. It updates about every 10 seconds or so.
Okay.
For us, internally it's monitoring it live, but to us it visually shows every 10 seconds or so. That helps us keep the bandwidth low, helps us keep the price lower. The camera is important because Posha mimics human chef intelligence to cook food. If you see how humans cook food, we use our eyes, our sense of smell, our sense of taste to cook food. We don't use simple time and temperature to cook food. If that was the case, we would have just written down instructions for 10-year-olds and they would have easily cooked food, but that's not the case. Similarly, Posha has a camera that looks at change in color, texture, consistency. An onion might take 5 minutes to brown versus say 7 minutes to brown. Posha knows exactly when to stop browning it, irrespective of what ambient temperature is there, irrespective of where you got your tomatoes from. If the tomatoes had more water content or less, Posha is intelligent enough to make those decisions in real time, so you don't have to be around at all and use your judgment. You and I have never cooked this pasta before, but we'll see in some time that we, without even knowing how to cook a delicious pasta, would have inadvertently cooked great pasta.
Nice. Yeah, I had a question on the browning of butter, right? So does it ensure that butter doesn't brown?
It will make sure that butter does not get burnt.
Burnt, yeah.
So as soon as it melts, the camera knows that it's melting. You see some bubbles on top. So it is able to see the profile of those bubbles. It is able to see how brown your mushrooms are and how much they're shriveling, because when you heat mushrooms, they tend to get a glaze on top of them and start shriveling, and all of that is being sensed by the Posha AI.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I had a question on, so you mentioned that humans cook based on smell, vision, which is, how well it has browned and so on. What do you do for smell? Because that's such a hard problem, right?
So we don't exactly mimic human senses. Humans use a different set of senses. Machines use a different set of senses. Humans, for example, cannot detect temperature, but we still cook.
Yeah.
Machines, on the other hand, can sense temperature as well. The computer vision capabilities of machines are much better than human beings. So they're able to cook with limited number of senses.
So there are aspects of cooking that the machines are better than humans in.
And there are aspects where machines are not as good as humans.
So right now it's dispensing all-purpose flour for the Alfredo sauce, I guess.
Right, that's correct. And whenever you're ready, this will take its own sweet time to cook. We can totally go inside, continue a chat, and come back for food later.
Absolutely. So we are back to continue our chat, and Raghav has his Posha app open, and so we are at what step are we at?
We are on step number 9 right now. It's making a roux. A roux is a cheese milk mixture for the sauce, and we'll probably go back in around step 17 of 19 so that we can also see how it's ending the dish.
Yeah, it's smelling amazing even already. Great. So let's get into the product a little bit. So one of the things that I have noticed is maybe we can divide dishes that we make into. It's so hard to categorize because we have so many cuisines and so many kinds of styles of cooking, right? So, but most of the world eats some form of carbs like rice or bread or roti. From what I saw, the machine is great at preparing dishes that are maybe stir fry or based on a sauce like a shakshuka or like a curry, right? Is that something you guys deliberately zeroed in on? Is that, hey, what is one thing, maybe an instant pot or like a one pot meal is something that the world makes the most, so let's design it like this. So
I feel that there are primarily simplistically there are two types of cooking. There is cooking for which you require the stovetop, and there's cooking for which you require the oven. So we cannot do anything that requires an oven. We can do most things that are cooked on a stovetop, as long as there's no flipping necessary. For rotis there's flipping that's necessary. B, there's no human dexterity necessary, and complex human dexterity. And what I mean by that is making dough balls. Let us say you're making like dumplings, so human dexterity would be required. And the third thing is you don't require pressure cooking. So as long as these three things are not required, we can do almost anything that can be cooked on a stovetop.
what about deep frying?
We cannot do deep frying. We can do shallow frying though. So deep frying would again be in the flipping category, because
Shallow frying also a bit of flipping, maybe like vegetable cutlets or something like that, right?
Right. So shallow frying, we can actually be creative and still do it.
Okay.
Because the stirrer that we have is able to toss things around, but it's not able to flip an omelette or flip a pancake.
Got it.
So flat pieces cannot be flipped, but simple things can be moved around.
Yeah.
So even for the recipe we're cooking today, if you see traditionally, a spaghetti is a 2-vessel recipe. There is pasta that is cooked in a separate vessel, then there's sauce cooked in a separate vessel, and then the two are combined. Our chefs were able to work on a version where the sauce and the spaghetti are cooked together in the same vessel. So for many of these recipes, there are creative ways to still make Posha, cook it for you.
That's one thing that can come out of robotic chefs, is that maybe we will fine tune our recipes to cater to the robots in future, right? I mean, we probably might have discovered or come up with recipes that need to involve human dexterity, but maybe with robots we can get to 90 to 95% of the way along the way, but maybe the recipes need to be tweaked a little bit. So
that is not something that will happen in the future. It's already happening, and it has been happening for the last many years now. In fact, if you go to your local library, you'll see an entire section of books dedicated to instant pot cooking, or an entire more recently an entire section of books dedicated to air fryer cooking. And that is humans in real time trying to figure out, hey, I have this great appliance, how do I tweak my recipe so it can cook more easily in the appliances I have at home. But then some recipes that are multi-stage, you still, there is room for you to even tweak them further, and make them better and make them easier with these new category of devices in your kitchen.
And the thing with, I've heard this from my mom and grandmother, that when mixies came to the Indian household and they were making dosa batters in mixie, they were like, it's not the same, you know. And the same with air fryer as well. Like if you were to make fried okra or lady's finger in the air fryer, they are like, it's not quite the same. But I feel like somewhere cooking or food is very it's an acquired taste, right? I mean, you're not born with automatically liking a particular kind of rice or a particular kind of dal. It's just that you have eaten it all through your life and you automatically start liking it. Okay. So maybe people will also evolve with these recipes, and the very first time it might not taste the same way as their mom made it, but over time it will be fine, right?
Correct. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm pretty sure, back in the day when my grandmom used to make biryani, there would be like smoky, charcoaly taste to it. But I, in my last 30 years, have never tasted any charcoal in my biryani. So at least the ones cooked at home. So clearly our taste preferences have automatically evolved.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So now when you started to think about this product, I know you have done a few startups before. Maybe we can dive a little bit into that. You did your college, but then you were not wanting to take up a job, and tell me a little bit about that.
So me and my co-founder Rohin, we have known each other since high school, and we've always been entrepreneurial. We come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad runs a business in back in India, and so does my co-founder's family. So we always wanted to be entrepreneurs. It was something that was ingrained in us while we were growing up. So right after college, we decided to start our first entrepreneurial venture. The first thing we started, tried our hands on was an energy venture. We were trying to build micro wind turbines that could harness energy from low gusts of wind. At that point of time, only 80% of India had access to electricity. 20% of India had no access to electricity, and we wanted an electrified future for India. That unfortunately could not work because at that time, solar just picked up. Piyush Goyal had just become energy minister. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had committed 100 gigawatts of solar to the country, and we realized that wind could no longer compete with solar, and we did not have the necessary skills to build photovoltaic cells. And so we shut that down, and we asked ourselves, what problem should we attempt to tackle next? This time, when we decided to tackle a new problem, we set clear guidelines for ourselves. We said there are 3, check marks that need to be there for whatever we tackle next. The first check mark was that we wanted to build a business where the problem being solved had been first-hand experienced by us. In the wind energy business, we had access to electricity. 20% of India did not, but we did have access to electricity. Second, we continued to want to solve a deep tech problem. At that point of time, there were enough companies that were building software, enough companies that were building services, enough apps, enough websites out there, but nobody was really doing deep tech. And if you see even now,
what year are we talking about?
2017.
Oh yeah.
And even now you see, like 8 years later, now is the time when India is finally talking about its deep tech companies, and I'm hearing about flying taxis coming out of India and space tech companies coming out of India. That was not happening 8 years back. Aether Energy perhaps was one company that came around that time, but that was the only example I could think of. Perhaps Grey Orange Robotics was the other one. And then the third thing was we wanted to build for the world from our roots in India. So again, if you think about it, India had at that time only exported, so actually India at that time had only exported services and software products. We had the Wipros, Infosys, TCSs of the world exporting services. We had your ChargeBees and Freshworks of the world exporting software, but there was no hardware or like deep tech products being exported from India, especially or being built out of India for the global stage. We had Sony from Japan, we had Dyson from Europe, we had Apple from America, but India was still known for its inexpensive labor and large workforce. We also wanted to change that narrative. And those three things came together for us to start Posha. I'd grown up in a household where love was expressed through home cooked meals, and I'd seen enough people in my family who'd had to sacrifice professional aspirations to provide love and care through food to their families. I did not want me and my wife to have to make that choice between family and professional success, and Posha seemed to solve that beautifully. Technology seemed to have been advanced enough at a stage where sequential steps could be followed to automate cooking. Computer vision was in its infancy. Generative AI had not happened, but traditional ways of AI were still being used to solve business problems, and we thought that those could be used to solve real human problems. Autonomous vehicles have certainly been using the same technology. Self-driving cars use cameras and a GPU to drive cars around, but appliance makers have not taken up to that yet.
Yeah, that is so true, because everyone knew that a self-driving car could help the world, and like an automatic cooking or automatic robot that can do cooking would be helpful. But like it needs technology to be at a certain stage, and advancement, like cost of compute has to go down, and the cost of GPUs have to come down. I mean, there has to be a GPU. I mean, there was no GPU maybe 20 years ago, right? So maybe 25 years ago. But I think you guys looked at the right time and the right amount of technological advancements that were all in place for this to come up. So I think in a day maybe we are spending a lot of time on cooking, cleaning dishes. I did a episode with Matic robots where they were solving autonomous vacuum cleaning, where that's also a part of the problem, right? We spend a lot of time cleaning. And then comes folding clothes and doing laundry. So I feel like if we solve all of them, we'll have a lot of time in our hands. But in a lot of Asian countries, especially India, availability of labor is cheap or affordable. I don't think it's a great thing to say, because maybe we are not paying the labor high enough. Maybe that's what it is, right? But for someone who wants to purchase Posha, debating between a cook at home versus the machine, what do you think would be the trade-offs, or is India not the right market to address?
So if you look at India, India has less than 1% dishwasher penetration, whereas in the US dishwasher penetration is close to 70%. Likewise for cleaning robots, from the data that I have seen in the US, there's roughly 20% penetration of cleaning robots, whereas in India again it's less than 1%. So even in established product categories, we have seen that people don't value their own time. I mean, not their own time, but people don't find it valuable to find these these pieces of automation to simplify their life. Part of it is cost of labor or cost of the alternatives. In India, the cost of alternative is super low. So it is much easier to pay somebody in a high density country which is abundant in its workforce to help them out with all of these things. Cost of services as a result is also much cheaper. In the US that is not the case, so people rely on automation. If I have to do a simple like cost benefit analysis, Posha gives you an ROI assuming even a meager $30 an hour hourly cost of a person. You get your money back within 50 hours, right? So 50 hours is 50 hours of cooking is 50 days of cooking. That's about 2 months of spending your own time. You get your money's worth back. In India, your time is not valued as high. Your time would be valued at maybe, I guess, like $10 an hour. $10 an hour is being very
optimistic.
Yeah. Very optimistic. I remember when I was in India, I was paying a person who used to cook for me, who helped me with cooking, maybe about $80 per month. She used to come every single day on weekdays. So if I have to divide 80 by 25 odd, that's $3 an hour maybe.
Yeah, I think in the US, it's not that difficult to get a cook. I mean, I agree to your point that the cost of labor is high, but there are people who are happy to drive to your home,
Correct.
cook for maybe 2 days a week, probably not every day. Again, that freshness part comes into play there, right? Like this is fresh meal and you know exactly what is going inside. I think I remember seeing like it went viral on Instagram where the cook was not cooking the food with the same level of hygiene that you and I would like. So there is that as well, right? So it's fair to say that you are basically focusing on outside India right now?
So our focus is primarily the US market.
Okay.
I grew up in India, but our focus has always been the US market. It's only in households of US consumers. It's built for US for consumers in the US, even though my roots are in India.
Okay, so let's get a bit technical. I know we addressed some of the things during the demo, but tell me a bit about how do you come up with recipes? You mentioned that you worked with chefs. I know there's a startup in Palo Alto called Cloud Chef who has partnered with chefs and sort of trying to automate exactly the same cooking or recipes in their cloud kitchen. So tell me a bit about how did you partner with chefs in this process?
So we have our own in-house team of chefs that creates these recipes manually, then translate these recipes into code base that can be understood by the robot, then does testing of those recipes in our own test kitchen and then ships them on the robot. So it's a long process. And as a result, we don't really work with any outside chefs because it is an involved process to create recipes that can be cooked by the robot. Once these chefs have created the recipes, we ship them to customers, collect feedback, and refine those recipes based on what customers tell us. A lot of customers have been asking us for customization abilities because no recipe is exactly the same. In our case, we're cooking spaghetti Alfredo right now. You might not like mushrooms in it and you might want peppers in it for whatever reason. Now, we allow those customizations. Simple customizations like removal of ingredients is pretty straightforward. Like we tap a button, remove the ingredient. It seems straightforward, but on the back end, a lot of changes have to be made in the recipe so that the camera knows that an ingredient has been removed. So I need to change the cooking profile accordingly. So we use AI capabilities once a human has designed a core recipe to provide customization features. So AI helps us decide if I've removed an ingredient or added an ingredient, what changes do I need to make to the code base of the recipe so that it still cooks perfectly every single time, and that helps us make our culinary team more efficient, help them ship out more recipes. So there is always a human in the loop, but at the same time we use some AI to fast track customization features and variations of great tasting recipes.
This could be your secret sauce, but how does the recipe from the chef make its way into the robot? Like how does that translation happen?
So there is a chef would manually create the recipe. As I said, there's a GUI that we have. It's like a recipe builder tool that we have internally. A chef would now use that recipe builder tool to create a recipe step by step. And as I mentioned previously too, it's not just time and temperature. The chef would say, brown these onions to this shade on this scale, and then add potatoes hypothetically, and then cook them till their texture matches this value, and they would continue to do that because many times humans also make mistakes. If I ask you to put 1.5 ounces of mushrooms, you might end up putting in 1.7 ounces or 1.8 ounces. We still need to make sure that the device still cooks it perfectly every single time without there being any issues.
Yeah, I mean the other thing with humans is we rely a lot on heuristics, and it might not be easy to quantify everything. And
Correct.
what I mean by that is, like, let's say for example, Maillard reaction, right? Or the browning of the onions. It's so hard to quantify. I mean, yeah, you can do a little bit with vision, but it's like, how are you navigating? It's so fascinating how you are navigating through that. But are you using any like vision language model for this?
So what we do is, once we've perfected a model for a certain ingredient, we then ship out tons of recipes for that ingredient.
Okay.
So let us say there's a rice cooking model, and we figure out that we have found out this bubble pattern to know how rice is to be cooked. You will all of a sudden see tons of recipes being shipped that use that rice model. So we have our internal libraries for every ingredient, but there's not, I don't think we use any popular, libraries out there to do all of this cooking. In fact, the data that we use to train our models has also been generated in-house over years and years of in-house testing, B testing on consumer devices. I'm not sure if that completely answers your question.
While I was looking at the demo, right, I was looking at the stirrer, and I was thinking about like how I stir things when I'm cooking. So there is a lot of this motion where you are like maybe moving the pan, you are mixing, and then sometimes you're cleaning the sides.
Correct, yeah.
And sometimes you're flipping.
Correct.
So this can only go this way.
Right.
Or has that been a feedback that customers have given you, or maybe it doesn't matter?
So there are actually 3 different kinds of spatulas.
Okay.
So depending on what recipe you're cooking, I'm not sure if you noticed, but in the beginning of the recipe, it tells you exactly which spatula to use. So you put in the spatula based on that recipe, and then the motion changes automatically. A spaghetti will require a different spatula because noodles are stirred a different way compared to, let us say, a ramen broth, which has a ton of liquid stuff and doesn't require like tossing around of noodles.
Okay, great. How did you reach out to customers, and how did you get your first customers?
So early days there was a lot of hustle. We would cold reach out people who were active on social media about their cooking habits, who had told the world about how difficult it was for them to cook in the kitchen. We would reach out to them, schedule interview calls, try to understand what problems they were facing in the kitchen, and ask them if they would be willing to test a Posha unit at their home. We would also go to different venues to conduct demos. So we have done demos outside grocery stores. We have done demos in parks. We have done public demos via Luma and other platforms for others to just come and see our robot. And many people used to just come for the fun of it, and soon decide that they wanted this in their house. So we got our first 100 odd customers through basically sheer will and grind. Then these first 100 customers became ambassadors for us. Every paying customer right now gets us at least 3 more paying customers without us having to spend any time on marketing. So the product has just worked so well that it continues to help us attract more customers. We've also seen that the product visually looks so nice that when people make a video of it and post it online, it has a high tendency to go viral. So in the last few quarters alone, we've had millions of views of videos that have been posted about Posha online.
Yeah, and this is also such a cool thing to demo, right? It'll automatically attract people because it's food and everyone loves food.
Correct.
No one can be without it.
So it seems to me like the recipe is almost done, by the way. So let's actually go inside, see what's happening, and then try some food.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So we have this feature called co-pilot mode. So co-pilot mode, what it does is it lets me control the robot in the manner I want to. So let us say I want to keep my pasta warm. I could just increase the heat somewhat and stir it for a bit, and either stir it continuously or make it stir intermittently, and it will now intermittently stir my food. And I could set a timer and say, hey, do this for 3 minutes while I come back.
Oh.
And people use this feature for all sorts of things like, I want to roast peanuts. And it's too much time to just roast peanuts.
Yeah.
Or, I want to bhuno my gajar ka halwa.
Yeah.
So that is what the Copilot mode also allows. But our food is ready.
Oh, it smells great. Just on that, do you have the other spatulas that you can maybe show?
Yeah, sure. So we have this spatula. This is called the curry spatula. And then we have a flipping spatula, which is a two-part spatula. So this thing goes on the bottom, and then the other spatula that's there goes on the top.
Okay.
So it flips, say, potatoes around.
Oh, nice.
So you want to toss potatoes around, you want to toss cubes of tofu around, so use the flipping spatula.
Because that's really helpful, especially when it's like cube sized.
Correct.
You want all the sides to be equally brown or equally cooked. So
Correct.
That's a great addition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it smells really good.
So I will just serve you some of this.
Nice. So this is a pre-cooked dish by Posha. Do you want me to call it Posha or Nymble?
Posha.
So
we
this
have
is a quick taste test. Yeah.
Okay,
Raghav.
so we have food cooked for Bala here. We have some spaghetti, some paneer tikka masala, and some naan. Naan was obviously not cooked by Posha. But what do you feel? You like the spaghetti?
It's really good.
Okay.
And given the fact that Alfredo sauce was made and the spaghetti was like cooked, right? Like this is so good.
Good to hear. You want to try the paneer tikka too?
The paneer is soft. It's fantastic, really.
Good.
So I mean, the spaghetti and paneer tikka masala was fantastic. I mean, I can't really believe, how magical. Like, I mean, we were here talking for 45 minutes and we just didn't. I mean, it was a bit of sound, but like, that's okay.
Yeah. That's the beauty of the robot. I can host guests without having to spend time in the kitchen.
Exactly. Especially for dual income families, right? Where, everyone, both of them come back from the office at 5 or 6 and then, and the good part about this is you can schedule it, right? So you can have a hot meal right after you come back from work. So that's fantastic. I just want to ask a little bit about, other players in the space like Appliance AI and I think Chef Robotics. What would you think is the differentiator that you guys have?
So in the US, we haven't seen much competition. There is no company that we know of that makes robots for home that cook meals for you automatically using intelligence, GPUs, a camera. There are these devices, there are dumber appliances or non-intelligent appliances like Instant Pots. So Instant Pot would help you simple pressure cooking. There are multi-cookers. So there's this product called a Thermomix where there's a screen, there is like a heated jar and the screen tells you what to do with the heated jar and you just follow instructions. So the screen would say, hey, put some tomatoes in, you would put the tomatoes in, then the screen would say put 2 teaspoons of spice, you would put teaspoons of spice, it will say, hey, now stir it, you would close it and stir it. But for the entire 20-25 minute duration of cooking, you will have to be in front of the device and be reliant on your intelligence to cook. Posha is the only device that we know of that automates one-pot cooking using a camera and human chef like intelligence and is actually out there in the real world shipping to customers.
Did you ever explore the opportunity to maybe build a bigger intelligent chef that could be used by cloud kitchens, or are you only targeting B2C customers?
So it early on, the first prototype we made was a robotic arm that could cook meals. We had the option to build it for cloud kitchens and for restaurants, but we realized that did not solve the problem we set out to solve.
That's a good point. Yeah.
The problem we set out to solve was that, we need a way to eat freshly cooked meals every single day without having to spend tons of time in the kitchen. No matter what restaurant I deploy a robot in, that does not solve that problem. And so what we need are, something in my home that helps me eat freshly cooked meals. The thought of increasing the size in a consumer kitchen has occurred to us, and that might seem counterintuitive, because if anything, people say this is, if anything, people want a larger device. But then if you look at the most important devices in your kitchen, the dishwasher, the microwave, the oven, all of them are actually A, much larger than Posha, B, they've attained what I call built-in status. They started off with appliances that were maybe as big as Posha, became very useful in people's lives, so useful that people who construct buildings started pre-installing these devices in consumer homes. I feel that will be the fate of Posha, and it will replace the stovetop into something that can cook for you when you don't feel like cooking, and that you can cook on when you do feel like cooking. And so our intention is to replace the stovetop. I think it's due for an upgrade. It's been many years, into something that can cook for you.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense, because we need a reinvention of food, or how food is prepared, right? So I think that's the path that you guys have set out to solve. What was some of the earlier customer feedback that you got when you approached your first 100 customers?
When we built our first prototype, I think the biggest feedback we got was on cleaning. Back then, we did not realize cleaning is so important to users. And so we, in the public release of the product, we've made sure that every part that comes in contact with food is dishwasher safe. The pan you saw, the containers you saw, everything is dishwasher safe. People always have concerns on reliability. And so we spent 2 years making sure the product is reliable, nothing breaks. There are still some software bugs that crop up every once in a while. But we are on track to at least make sure there are no hardware issues at all. And so reliability is something that cropped up. We have also built capability so that if there is an error, just like a printer, you can self-diagnose what the issue is and then resolve it for yourself. People sometimes have concerns because, even though we have something as complex as a printer in our homes, we have nothing as complex in the kitchen. Like there's nothing in the kitchen that has so many moving parts. And so it seems very new to people that way. So that has been the second piece of feedback, which is make sure it works, does not break down, gives me consistently good food every single time. So the third big piece of feedback we've worked on is making sure the food tastes extremely good. Our recipes are rated 4.6 on 5 over 10,000 cooking sessions. This is at par with DoorDash. So our food tastes actually better than DoorDash meals.
What is your most cooked recipe?
It is a personal preference. Yeah. So because we have many different types of customers, they have different dietary preferences. I personally like the paneer tikka masala a lot as a North Indian. I like the spaghetti that you're eating a lot.
It tastes delicious.
Yeah, there's a carrot pudding in India called gajar ka halwa that I really like. So that is something that we cook pretty often. My wife likes a poha. Poha is again a Indian dish. So that is pretty delicious. People have told us the sambar on it tastes very good too. Mm. So these are some dishes that Posha cooks very well.
Yeah. One final question before we wind up. I saw that the camera of the machine, while it was looking down into the food, got foggy. So I feel like that's a very typical problem because the steam generated and steam can fog the camera. Mm-hmm. Is that something that people face usually and that you have to maybe go and just wipe it a little bit?
So it is pretty atypical. Okay. It does not happen that often. The placement of our exhaust system is as such that all the steam is
blown out from the side of the camera.
Correct.
Okay.
And if there is fogginess, it typically happens right in the beginning of the recipe. In which case, during the system check, it says, hey, it seems like it's a little foggy. Why don't you clean it so that issue does not occur later on? Today was one of those instances where it did not determine in the beginning but in the middle of the recipe.
Yeah. The other thing is, a lot of Indian cooking involves spluttering mustard seeds or jeera seeds. So that can, cause like oil spots in the camera. So it's probably another.
So that does not happen very often. That is actually something that used to happen 2-3 years back,
Okay.
Where highly viscous liquids would cause splattering. But then we trained our AI models to reduce the heat as soon as it predictively sensed that some splatter might happen. Because again, as a robot, we can simmer it very easily, we can increase the heat very easily. So now we have no longer seen instances where, where food just starts splattering. This is again, this is thanks to the feedback of our consumers, which said cleaning is very important. Even now, if we go, you'll see that there is no remnants of food anywhere around the robot.
Yeah.
That is by design.
Yeah, that's great. And I think the containers that, the ingredients were kept are dishwasher safe and everything else is dishwasher safe. One particular thing that I wanted to ask was the oil, right? So we had oil and water in 2 separate containers. So dispensing oil will involve some pipes. How do we go about cleaning?
We have cleaning cycles.
Okay.
Just like other cooking robots at home.
Coffee machines, right? Have cleaning
Coffee
cycles.
machines and Rotimatic. So all of these machines have cleaning cycles. So every once in a while we ask you to run the cleaning cycle.
Okay, perfect. I think now we have to address the elephant in the room, which is the pricing. So I had a poll before we recorded the episode. And I had no idea what price point you guys were targeting. And in my head, it was around, I don't know, $3,999,
Okay.
Which is close to $4,000. And a lot of people said no. And we would love to know what price point are you guys targeting?
So we retail for $1,500 US. We also have an optional subscription of $15 a month, which gives you access to all the recipes on Posha. So that's our pricing model. Our aim is to get the price to $999 over time. That will take many years. For the first few years, it will continue to be at $1,500. It's very much similar to any phone, car, Model S, and then you have Model 3 sometime down the road.
Yeah. I think 1,500 is. I mean, I was shocked when I heard that pricing. I thought it would be somewhere around 4,500, 5,000. But when you broke down what is in the machine and what is involved in the cooking, then it kind of makes sense. So I think it is definitely in the affordable range for a market like the US. So let us know if 1,500 is, the food tastes delicious. So I think it's a great price point to start. And I think 999 would be fantastic, because I think for a single dish product like Rotimatic, I don't know how much they are retailing it for, but around that same price. And this can do far more than that. So I think this is a great price point to start. So
and people can actually reserve their units for $25 on our website. We currently have a long wait list of customers. So we are not at a stage where people can come to us, make a purchase, and they get the products. There are about 1,000, there are a few thousand people who are waiting for their product. If you want to put your place in line, you just go on our website, put down your card. We charge $25, fully refundable, and it marks your place in line for whenever we're ready to ship to you.
Okay, perfect. And this is all online, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's all on our website.
Awesome, Raghav. Thank you so much. It's delicious food. I think I can't wait to finish this off.
Sure.
So thank you so much for your time, and it was fantastic seeing the demo and all what you do at Posha.
Thanks for having me, Bala.
Awesome. Thanks.